Well said, because I think a lot of people do consider HR or uh, the field as something which is of no use. Like a lot of people come to me and tell me that what am I doing? I'm doing HR. I'm just doing like as a Gurpreet said, that Rangoli sessions and all those things. So I think people need to first of all understand that HR is not only about recruitment and exit interviews and stuff like that, but it is much more than that. It is HR is basically the foundation of the whole company. Me working in a HR field, I get to hear a lot about HR is useless, it is nothing, you can just become an HR by just getting any degree. But then it is not like that. It is like
The most important department, and I would say the most neglected department, and also neglected not just by the employees, by the department itself.
Yeah.
Like self neglected department, I would call, where they have minimized their own potential, who according to the definition is a bridge between the employer and the employee. However, this bridge is broken and you can't reach the management. 95% of the employees, they have such fear, because I whenever I meet, like, ये HR से share नहीं नहीं sir, HR से तो share ही मत करो. Usually HR managers and organization owners, they often complain that their employees are not performing up to the mark, or they are leaving the jobs for better opportunities, or they feel like their profits are going down. So today, to understand the core of this issue, we have a very special guest, Ms. Sanskriti Jamle, who is an industrial and organizational psychologist, and today she will put light on this particular issue, how we can resolve this and how we can move forward. So, welcome, Sanskriti, to
hello,
the talk. Yeah.
thank you, Gurpreet, for introducing me such a beautiful line. And hello, everyone. I am Sanskriti. I have completed my industrial and organizational psychology, and currently I'm working in an organization as in the HR domain. So yes, let's look at the work culture and the HR domain, how it works in a organization and why is it important in an organization.
Great. So let us start this video with the first question, that it is but obvious that people will leave one day from any job because there are other opportunities also. But I would want to know, if there is an organization where is in continuous attrition, people are moving out, there is new hiring happening every now and then. What could be the core issue with your perspective as a psychologist?
So I think in all the companies there is like recurrent hiring, recurrent attrition. I think majoritarily it also lies upon the work culture that is there in the organization, and also how the employees are treated, which is like very important nowadays in particularly India. Nobody puts like much attention to employee well-being, because obviously mental health is noted to be a very not so important topic in our country. And I feel like in organization, every manager and every employee, it is necessary to know why the employee is leaving, to understand what is causing the attrition rate, to understand like how can the environment of the work culture can be improved. And I think nowadays what is happening is people are not like, in terms of the Gen Z and millennial, if we talk about the debate for Gen Z and millennials, it is like millennials are more prone to the stress. They are okay with understanding the stress factors, they're okay with handling their stress, they're okay with not finding purpose in their jobs. But when it comes to like Gen Zs, they are much more interested in understanding the purpose. They just don't want to do anything which is just giving them financial stability, right? They want to do something which will enhance their career opportunities, which will make them individually stand out in the crowd, and which will also give them independence and flexibility to uh, like have an impact on the crowd. So I think that is something which is like nowadays we can see in the organization, because there is a lot of organizations saying that the young generation is not stable, they're just living like quickly, they just don't want to like in 4 5 months, if they don't find the stability in the job, they are just like, okay, we will just quit it. But in terms of the millennial crowd, if we talk about, they are much more stable in the jobs, and because they have a mindset of if we quit the job we won't find another job, so they have that fear. But the current generation, they don't have that fear. And I feel it is also important to understand the current generation more in terms of the workplace aspects, because the uh, older generation, they are much more used to what is happening around, and they are much more used to living a certain way, whereas we need to bring change in the current organizational work culture, and also like implementing new strategies depending upon the new generation is what I feel. So I think this is also a way we can look at the attrition rates to understand, and also to know why the exit interviews are happening, and what is actually like what strategies and what goals can we actually build with those exit interviews, and not just taking those exit interviews for just like uh, a system procedure. So we should understand more on why is it happening, and what are the deep roots causing to this issue. So yes.
So you summarize it in a very nice manner. So I would just take it as an extension here that recently we saw news of industrialists and business owners who are also leaders, so-called leaders, and they are proposing 70-hour and 90-hour work week. And so I clearly see a gap between the kind of leadership and the kind of following that they have. Because Gen Z and millennials and baby boomers, when they come together, so we will have to find a middle path to work through them. So, taking it ahead, when employees usually leave, apart from they are going for bigger opportunities or the salary part or the money part. So, I would also want you to put a light and on specifically the motivation part. So, what exactly in today's generation is motivating the employees to stay in an organization, or what actually makes them quit the organization? So, what exactly goes in their mind that HR leaders can understand or business owners can understand? Because I truly believe that you can never compensate for attrition. So, however, hiring you may be able to do, how many packages of recruitment packages you take, and maybe you're having everyday interviews, still the cost that goes in training everyone and bringing them in alignment with the work values of the organization, it takes a fairly long time. So, please let me know about what exactly motivates the employees.
So let's talk about what is making the employees not so motivated. So what I think is most of the employees, or most of the new employees, they're not aware exactly of what they're doing in their current job, right? They don't have proper training, they don't have proper skill set addressed, they don't have proper knowledge about what they are going to do in the job that they are hired for. Mostly it is like job mil gaya, let's do it, because after graduation it is very difficult if you don't get selected in a campus recruitment drive. So it is very important to understand that why a individual or why a graduate wants to do a job in a particular domain, or what is motivating him to select that domain. Because nowadays it's like, even after in a campus drive, if you don't get hired, people are just open to to get any job they would find in the market. Even if a salesperson, if a sales background person is able to get into something which is not related to his sales background but giving him a good salary package, he would obviously take it. But then after a few months, or maybe few years, he would realize that this is not what I want to do. And then the stress factor, the factors that is not contributing to his performance would lead and come in between, and that would lead for the individual to leave the job. So I think nowadays it is very much important to understand what the individual is looking out for, what his skill set is, and I think what his passion is, rather than to just like label somebody on his graduation or the course that he has done in. Because there are so many plenty of people who just want to create something, who wants to like make a change in the work culture, and not just work only in terms of, or only in the um, what we can say, only because to show the audience, or to just prove their parents something. But I think for nowadays it is much more important to understand the goals of the individuals, to understand what excite them to do a particular job, and where they're like, do they really want to continue in the education factor that they have been learning for so long, or do they want to do something out of their education. So I think it all sums up to the purpose that they want to live in, the skill set that they want to use, and also what kind of difference they want to make in the work environment. So I think that is something which we need to understand, even in the exit interviews, even in the even while hiring an employee, just to know that which department is this individual going to fit in better, rather than asking like traditional questions while hiring. We can just make them understand, or ask them what they really want to be as an individual, or where do they look themselves after 10 years, but not in a corporate sector, but as an individual. So I think that is something that we really need to look forward to while we are assessing an individual for interview, or even when they are exiting from the work, like the company. So yes, so I think that is something we really need to cater to.
Yeah, I truly agree that this particular issue. So I normally, when we look at like what is the best way to avoid a conflict, is not to get into one.
Yeah.
So similarly, this issue can very well be resolved at the hiring stage only. If people are hired and they are selected and still they are leaving, or they are not aligned with the organization, see, there are many employees when you just get the employees on board based on just their resumes.
Yeah.
So for example, they have had 10 years of experience in a certain field, but you could be someone who is in the wrong job for 10 years, and still they are continuing the same because they are getting a salary hike and they would want to continue. It's like they are able to do substandard work, or work that is able to just retain the job, but they are not specialized in their fields, or they are not doing something extraordinary. But once the HR screens the resume and they found out, oh, he is the right fit for this job, not seeing what is his alignment to this job role, to the task, to the department in the long run. So I think if this screening happens in the interview process only, a lot of the iteration can be avoided. So, taking it ahead, because you use this word quite frequently of work culture. Okay, so usually, when it comes to work culture, and I had the opportunity to talk to some employees, and they said the work culture at our organization is very good. So I said, what is the meaning? Ki like, har hafte there is some party or some treat going on. There is a dance and a music fest going on. There are some games activities going on, and there is decoration, etc. All of these things, it's a very good work culture. But I have seen these employees also not being happy at work, and I have often seen employees sitting in groups in the lunch time, and then talking negative about the work environment. And these are the employees which are like 8 to 10 years. So they have accepted, like, somehow you see a bunch of maybe housewives sitting somewhere in your colony and discussing about like how difficult it is to deal with their husband. So they have somehow come to terms with कि there is acceptance, I can't do anything about it, I can't change the husband, and I can't remarry. And similarly with the job कि like अब इतने साल निकाल ली तो और निकालना ही पड़ेगा. But they are somehow also uh, active seeds for other new joiners, because when new people they join, and then they come across in these people, and they listen to these things, and they like, अरे यार डोंट डू, कोई नहीं पूछेगा, अरे 2 बजे का टाइम है, अरे 2:15 तक सब आते हैं, है ना. So you directly indirectly you influence the work culture, because since you are not very much aligned, and you behave in a certain way, the other people might also take it as a casual behavior. So I want to know in depth from you that what is the true positive work culture. Like, if as a psychologist you were to give me like 3 or 5 points, like these are the 5 points which should be there in a work culture or organization which have these 5 attributes, they can be considered as a, you could say, a good working place. And so many organizations get awards of, good to workplace or something like this, but I think sometimes they also have a toxic environment. So what exactly is a positive work?
So I think most of the times such things happen is because of a not so positive work culture, which can also lead to work life balance disturbances, then individual and personal, no time for personal activities or stuff like that. What I think is should be in a positive work culture, in terms of, as Gurpreet mentioned, 5 points, I would say that each and every employee should have the independence and flexibility on ideas. If they want to inculcate something new, if they want to build a new strategy also ever for their individual teams, even that should be, the manager should be so approachable that he or she is agreeing, or at least listening to the employee's ideas. So that would be the first point, which is independence and flexibility. The second point I would like to say is recognition. Every other individual wants recognition in their job. They want to feel appreciated, they want to feel seen, they want to feel like they want to hear good things about the work they are doing, because only after a person is like getting appreciation, he or she feels motivated to do the work more. So I think that would be another point, which is recognition, which is very much important. The third point I would say like would be work life balance, which is much more important, and I think which is a lot neglected in the Indian society, because people here are so used to working for like day and night. And even if you like, this thing comes as a surprise in India that Saturdays and Sundays are off to me. So for some people it's like, oh, it's great that you have Saturday Sundays off, but then that is kind of a work culture which our country or even India should like adopt. Because if you look at the foreign countries, they have a specified um time frame. If the work timings are from 9 to 5, it is 9 to 5. Nobody like extends the work limit after 5, and if even if they are overworking after 5, they get the extra payment, which is not seen here. So I think work life balance is very important in our country, or even in most of the organizations should adopt it, so that they have a like much less retention rate, and like much people would like want to work, or even if they are mentally fit for like also having their personal time. I think work life balance and even work culture would have like more employees and more less attrition rate, if we are talking about. The next I would like to say would be autonomy. I think every individual wants to have autonomy in the particular kind of work they are doing. Nobody likes to have some other person intervene in their current work. Nobody wants to feel guided, or nobody wants to um, want other person to tell them what to do, when they actually know what to do, when they have the skill set to do the things their ways, and not have somebody else to ask them that you should do in a certain way because the company or the organization works in a certain way. So I think that kind of autonomy should every individual should have in terms of their own particular um, job title. And the fifth thing I would say would be not limiting to the perks and benefits of the organization. I mean, every organization has their own perks and benefits, but then only because the organization has a lot of parties or a lot of meetings doesn't mean that they have a positive work environment. There are a lot of organizations which have toxic work environment. Still, they end up getting along in parties and everything. And but at the end of the day, at same sitting at the same lunch table, they are just back bitching about one another. So I think this can also lead to a very bad mental health among the team. No collaboration, no teamwork. It could like lead to just doing the work in terms of pressure, in terms of stress, just to get an outcome. But there is no team collaboration, there is no motivation to do. So I think it is very necessary to understand the stress, to understand the team dynamics, is what I think, rather than just focusing on the perks and benefits of the company. So yeah, I think these are the five motivating factors according to me, which every organization should like pay attention to.
So very well said. These 5 points are no doubt right indicators for a positive work culture. So sixth one I would like to add is, see, often organizations value employees in terms of the revenue they generate, and in terms of in terms of what they are paying those employees. So like that is the cost to the company that is there. So we have seen employees where they have been paid well, and they have been promoted every year. They are getting the hike and the rise also, but still these employees are not performing so well. And sometimes these employees are 5, 6, 8, 10 years old, and it's very difficult to let them go. Secondly, they also don't want to leave. So it's like a zone where they are doing, as I told you, as much as work that is relevant enough for them to be in the job, and enough so that the management does not see that there is an issue with the work. So it's like a very basic and a substandard job that they will manage. They will not be superly motivated as such, but they will not be also, I will say, underperforming as such. But again, these are also the kind of employees that stagnate the organization. So we would want employees who are constantly striving to be better, who are setting goals, achieving them, and setting new goals, rather than just being in a monotony of कि आ गए हैं and then 8 hours I have to sit at a chair and like pretend to work and all. So the sixth point that I would share that is very important for me. So for example, like happened to me in my life multiple times also, where I was offered a salary that was good according to great, and but the thing I missed out in that organization was sense of purpose. So when I do certain thing, I would want to know that what change am I creating through this work.
Mhm.
Okay, in my life, in the life of the people around me, in the society, in the organization, is it a purpose that I connect to? If it is not a purpose that I connect to, if it could be for some people getting certain numbers in a certain organization, in a certain business, could be their purpose. For me, like we spoke about what really matters to you is different from person to person. Similarly, if you have like 8 members or 20 members in a team, everyone has different work values, what exactly appeals to them, and then having the same set of rules and the same methods and the same processes for everyone, you will not be able to get the same output. So also aligning the employees to what exactly is exciting for them and what connects them, and connecting them to a cause that they are providing to, would be also a great indicator. So usually people complain about a toxic work environment, and they say ki toxic work environment is coming from this department, it is coming from this team. Some say it's coming from the management. Management says we are not aware of this, and so the blame game, passing the ball, it goes on. So I would also want to know that what is the role of leaders when we say leaders who walk the talk. Okay, so leaders who are democratic in nature, leaders who are collaborative in nature, leaders who are not just leaders, I would say leaders who are teachers and mentors, and who would want to guide their team members and not be insecure from their team members. We have seen in some cases where leaders cannot see people grow in their team. They would not want to give someone an appreciation just because they fear that मेरे से आगे निकल गया तो, है ना. So I would want to know again 3 attributes according to you of good leaders, great leaders, that can be beneficial to the organization, to the overall productivity, to the sales and the growth of the organization. What are those 3 attributes of a great leader?
So rightly said, a leader is very important to a leader, or like lead a team of at least 5 6 members or even more. And I think leaders are not somebody who like, as people say that leaders are born, but I feel leaders can be made as you grow and as you get those experiences in life. And what I feel is leaders are somebody who should know how to take a group together rather than just feel the pride within them that I am the leader, so I should be the one who has to cater to every problem myself. Leaders should be so dynamic in nature that they should understand the needs of each and every team member, that they should motivate the team member to work in their own ways and find their own capabilities, abilities, skills, and how those skills can contribute to the team altogether, and not just work in one factor, one domain, but in various domains within the team. And I think leaders should make their team members or their employees understand the need of not just having one particular skill for like all along. They should motivate their team members to have various kind of skills, various kind of interests which can contribute to the team as a member, and which can contribute to the continuous learning of the individual as well. Because I think leaders sometimes, a lot of people misunderstand leaders as bosses. Bosses are not actually leaders. Bosses are just the label that we give to somebody who is in much more hierarchical term to the subordinates. But I think leader is somebody who can never take that pride within himself that okay, I am the leader, so I am going to lead the team. The leader should be somebody who can make their team continuously achieve something, continuously achieve in sense of like individual growth as well as the team growth. And I feel like giving proper feedbacks, time to time feedbacks, recognition, time to time understanding of their individual. I think a leader should be very much able to understand the individual team members much more than on a team setting. I think because once a leader is able to understand the other team member in a much more personal way or in a much more individualistic way, it is clear to a leader that what kind of skills this person has and how can he contribute to the overall team, and not just to like do the work just because of the sake of doing it. So I think that is a very important quality of the leader, to understand and to point out the unique skill of each individual within a team. I think the second thing that a leader should provide is always continuous learning. The leader should set himself as an example to motivate his team members and not to like demotivate the team members. And the leader should give them autonomy, as I said previously, and the freedom to uh, bring ideas and execute them in their own manner, and not just the sake of doing a particular, just completing a particular project. So I think it is very important to have that freedom and independence within a team. And the third thing I would say is that a leader should be able to um, identify and build the team dynamics, rather than just, even if the leader is focusing on each individual, it is very important to understand the team dynamics, the team collaboration, and how it will benefit the whole team as a whole. Also to understand the, also should have a very good conflict management skills, because if the leader is not able to manage the conflicts properly, how will the team members will find the uh, way to manage the conflict. So I think that is very important, conflict management skills. And I think nowadays, even if you see that there are a lot of graduate programs or like a lot of young entrepreneurial programs where there are business schools which only shape these young generation to get into the business world, but they give a practical exposure and not just the theoretical exposure that we get in college. Because I think it is very important to have that kind of practical exposure to go out in the world, to set goals, to experience those things, because only by practical exposure one will be able to understand whether he has those leadership qualities or not. Because getting a theoretical knowledge and actually implementing it has like a great sort of difference. So I think it is very much important if people go and experience these leadership programs, go and just experience these um, like self leadership qualities, and then understand and identify their career goals. I think that is very much important, because only post that everybody will be able to like find purpose in life, improve their performance and everything. So I think yes, so I think leadership is not just limited to these three qualities, but then it differs for every individual, is what I think. Yeah.
So very well summarized about leadership. So I would also like to add one point that when we talk about the managing director of MD of the company, the person who usually handles all the leaders, or you could say the branch heads or the managers or the team leaders. Now there is a need of self reflection, introspection, and continuous analysis of what exactly is not going great in the team. So it's very easy to blame people, or to let go of people, or to shift people across branches or change. But the ideal thing would be to find out where the error lies, and then correcting them precisely, maybe through one-to-one counseling sessions, coaching sessions, leadership sessions, training sessions. So if you also want such solutions for your organizations also, you might contact the details on the screen. So last final question that I would want to ask is the most important department, and I would say the most neglected department, and also neglected not just by the employees, by the department itself, like self neglected department, I would call, where they have minimized their own potential, and they have just being narrowed down their work to maybe handling of offer letters, and maybe having a good rangoli day as
Admin kind of a work.
admin kind of work. So I would just want you to shed light on the role of an HR manager, the role of an HR team. So in an absence of an external coach, counselor, or in the organization where the HR is the only person who, according to the definition, is a bridge between the employer and the employee. However, this bridge is broken, then you can't reach the management. And even if you reach the management, or whatever are your concerns, they reach the management, it will lead to you not being in the organization. That is the fear that most of the employees have, that once I approach the HR, it means 100% I will be blamed for the issue. So whether I am having a stomach ache, I will be blamed. I am having a headache, I will be blamed. I am have problem with my one of my leaders, bosses, or team member, I will be blamed. I am slow in my work, I will be blamed. So if I am slow at work, what is expected of a person who is a learner would be like, hold my hand and teach me how to excel, rather than give me a mark sheet and label me and I don't know, C plus or something, and let just expel me, you know.
Yeah.
So that is the fear that I'll not say even most, I'll say 95% of the employees, they have such fear. Because I, whenever I meet like, ये HR से share नहीं नहीं sir, HR से तो share ही मत करो immediately, that is what they say. So as if so HR was meant to be that broke, like mending that broken piece, but ultimately the HR itself is having such low credibility these days that people don't approach. So I would want you to give just three advices to HR, to budding HR managers, who are already HR managers, who are HR executives, and who want to do something in this field. That these three advices, if they implement, they will do justice to their role, they will do justice to the organization, and they will do justice to work culture.
Very well said, because I think a lot of people do consider HR or uh, the field as something which is of no use. Like a lot of people come to me and tell me that what am I doing? I'm doing HR. I'm just doing like as a Gurpreet said, that Rangoli sessions and all those things. So I think people need to first of all understand that HR is not only about recruitment and exit interviews and stuff like that, but it is much more than that. It is HR is basically the foundation of the whole company, because they are the ones who analyze the employees, who understand the employees, and then also bridge the gap between the organization and the um, employees, right? Because they are the ones who know what will benefit the organization, who know the value of the organization, and then compete in finding the right individual for the organization. So I think even as me working in a HR field, I get to hear a lot about HR is useless, it is nothing, you can just become an HR by just getting any degree. But then it is not like that. It is like a person needs to understand that HR does a lot of things than just only conducting such sessions and like recruitment and exit interviews and stuff like that. There are various domains within HR as well. Like a lot of people don't know that there is a separate recruitment team, there is a separate team for payroll, there's a separate team for exit interviews, there's a separate team for learning and development. So I think HR is not only limited to one thing, but a whole set of a domain or a department. And I think if there are no HRs, who will like credit your salary to your accounts, right? So that is also one of the important aspect of HR, which is the payroll aspect. So I think one like three advices that Gurpreet mentioned that I would like to tell you is, first of all, don't fall into the trap of self blaming or like less credibility to your job, because I think once you fall in that trap, you can never find a right, what we can say,
Nice.
a right mindset to get out of it. Because once you fall in that cycle, you will just continuously like move around that cycle, and you won't find, even if there might be a lot of people coming and telling you ki, no, your job is something that a lot of people want to do, you won't be able to come out of it. So the first would be that don't even try to fall in that cycle, don't even try to doubt your skills, your field, because at the end, that is something that you are excelled in, right? And that is, obviously you'll understand your passion once you get into the field, but I think you always get to learn something new from a new field, from a new job, from a new domain, and you can always apply those skills to the other aspect of your interest or your passion. So I think first of all, no jobs should be like given less credibility, or no person should have self doubt regarding the job, is the first thing. Second thing, I would suggest that HR is something that would help you bridge the gap, obviously, between the employer and the employee. And HR should be a good uh, should have a good understanding of conflict management, is what I feel. Because even if people fear telling a HR about their conflicts, but I think these are the people who will actually give you a right guidance. Because first of all, to be the harsh truth about organizations and companies is that nobody actually cares about you. Nobody actually gives a damn about what is happening in your personal life and what is happening in your professional life. Everybody just wants the work to be done, right? So I think HR would be the only person who would be able to understand that what exactly the employee is facing. And even while hiring, the HR is able to understand that what kind of skill set these employees have and what kind of personal qualities these employees have and why they have been selected to a particular domain. So I think coming from a deep rooted analysis, HR would be a better person, and one having a good conflict management skills would be a better person to manage each and every issues or conflicts happening in the organization, and even at a individual level of an employee. So I think that is a very important skill that an HR should have. And the third thing I would like to say would be that um, HR should be good at managing people, because that is what human resource actually means, is managing employees, managing humans. And I think that is a top most important skill, is because you don't even only have to handle one employee but a whole set of employees, to understand varied personalities and varied skill sets, to also align them with the organization goals and values, and therefore also managing the upper management. The if as if talking about a single HR in a small scale organization, he or she has to handle each and every aspect of the organization to have the organization run smoothly. So you also have to manage the stakeholders, you also have to manage the employees, you also have to manage the conflict. So I think it is very important to have that management skills, person's people skills, and understanding each and every aspect of the goals, values, attributions of the organization, which would align with both the employees as well as the organization. So I think these are the topmost three skills which I would consider very important when you are thinking about a human resource career, or even if you want to experience the field. I think it is very important, because a HR field will always allow you to understand human management better. And I think it can also, even if you're not from a psychology background or from a human resource background, I think it is important that you experience this once in a lifetime, because it will help you skill your basic skills at a very uh, good level, at a very higher level. So I think it is very important to have these skills in like a HR.
So that was some great advice from Sanskriti, and I would like to just wind up by saying this: ki, to HR managers, this is my message, that treat yourself as the most important person in the organization. Once you treat yourself as so important person, and you know that you are doing an important work, only then you will be able to do justice to your work. Stop doing the balancing act of, I would say, pleasing the higher management, because that is not for what you are meant. And you are meant to have a win-win situation for both the employees and the organization. If sometimes HRs become one-sided towards the organization only, ultimately they create more losses for the organizations rather than profits. So treating and giving importance to both employees as well as the owners, that is important for the HR. So thank you so much, Sanskriti, for being part of this very interesting discussion. We would want to have you more in our videos on work culture, how to motivate employees, how to improve the performance of the employees. So thank you, viewers, for watching this video. We'll see you in yet another video of this channel. Till then, keep watching, subscribe, and like the video.